Morning, all. All right, so quick news of the day video for all you fine people on the internet for today. Starting off with talking about the Maple Leafs. So the Maple Leafs are a team that I don't think has valued their draft picks as much as they should. There are some teams that don't, that treat them like they can just part ways with them, no big deal. Now, Vancouver was willing to trade a pick to get Ethan Bear. Toronto was not. So Toronto had looked at Ethan Bear, who has been a topic of discussion on this channel many times over the last few years. And Toronto wanted to pick him up, but between salary considerations and everything, they also didn't want to give away a pick and end up with only 3 picks in this year's draft. It would be nice to see more teams looking at draft picks as something important to keep. So there's certain teams that hoard draft picks, and they seem to do pretty darn well with them. You'll get hits late in the draft too if you have enough picks. So Toronto, probably the smart move on their part. Absolutely. Now, hopefully their blue line returns to full health soon as well. But yeah, Toronto was not willing to part with the draft pick in order to make a trade happen for Bear. Ty Dellandrea has been fined. It's not a lot of money he got fined. I'm not surprised he got fined. It doesn't warrant a suspension, but basically a way of telling a guy who's new to the NHL, you can't do this. So he clipped Shesterkin. Now, I didn't think it was malicious, but I also thought it was reckless. So I didn't feel like he went in there with the intention of running over the goalie, but he made absolutely no effort to avoid the crease, no effort to avoid hitting the goaltender, and didn't seem to care after it happened. So there's that, right? So Dellandrea gets a fine for that, and I've never seen him do anything like that. And again, it just seemed reckless and kind of careless. And so hopefully it's just the one time that happens and that's it. Matt Luff yesterday took a puck to the mouth, and that caused an immediate whistle, and it looked bad at the time. What they're reporting, though, is that he should be okay. So it shouldn't be anything that keeps him out of the lineup. Sometimes guys lose teeth, and sometimes it causes actual damage to the jaw and whatnot. So it sounds like he got off relatively easy, although I don't know. A puck to the mouth just sounds like a really bad time. The one thing with that was Mickey Redmond getting asked, so you had that happen, didn't you? And it's like, sometimes Ken Daniels, I think you kind of poke at him a little bit. But anyways, yeah, Luff was okay, or is okay, I should say, and so hopefully he returns to the lineup sooner than later. I wanted to point out the standings are ridiculous right now. So right now in the West, there's 2 teams with 500 records that are holding on to the wild card spots 10 games in, and that is Seattle and LA both have records of NHL 500. Seattle's 4-4-2, LA's 5-5, meaning that we have 6 teams in the West that are below 500. Colorado's 1 point below those wild card teams at 4-4-1. So currently, right now, Colorado's outside the playoffs. It's one of those interesting things. But the interesting part is there's 6 teams in the West that are below 500, 1 in the East. And the head-to-head matchups, the East is feasting on teams from the West. Last night, just during the day yesterday, I was tracking this because it is getting interesting. The East was 7-2 against the West. You look at Vancouver's slow start to the season, a lot of that's against Eastern opponents. And so, yeah, last night, the only teams that did not beat their Western opponents were Pittsburgh and Toronto. 2 of what we consider to be, better teams in the East. So it's interesting. It's interesting to look at this and say maybe there is a little bit of an imbalance early in the season. I don't expect it to stay that way, but it is at the point where I'm definitely going to be tracking this. I may even go back to the start of the schedule and go through and go, okay, East versus West, how did we get here? So it is interesting, and it may mean that we see a team in the East with a better record than a team in the West. So the team in the West makes the playoff, the team in the East doesn't. That's the way it's set up. But that's going to lead to, I would think that if it gets to the point where a team with, say, a 560 points percentage is missing in the East and a team that's like 515 or 520 is making it in the West, that's where we'll start to see the arguments, not for 1 versus 8 in the conference. That's where we start seeing, you know what? We'll do 1 versus 16, 2 versus 15, etc. That's most fair. And I've seen that proposed before. The NHL did that twice and immediately realized that was a bad idea. The 1 versus 16, 2 versus 15, it was 1980 and 1981. They did it for the WHA teams coming in, And a couple years later, they shift divisions around and just did away with it. The interesting thing was we still had divisions in that situation, even though it was a balanced schedule where every team played every other team 4 times. They still had divisions. Why? So, anyways, there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And hey, thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.